Hi, my name's Kent Lewis, founder of pdxMindShare and Anvil Media, a multi-decade digital agency that I sold a few years back, and I'm now focusing on my passion on employee engagement and retention and productivity. And today on our pdxMindShare webinar, we are going to talk about how to create a more effective and efficient recruiting pipeline via brand curation and employee evangelists. So let's get started. I mentioned briefly that I, for almost 22 years, ran a digital agency called Anvil Media. That's the upper left. And then I was for 2 decades an adjunct professor at Portland State University teaching digital marketing. That's the green logo, PSU. The orange and black faces are pdxMindshare's logo. That's pdxMindShare.com. That's the career community I founded in 1999. So we're going on 25 years of building the Portland and greater Portland and Southwest Washington networks and careers and businesses through education, events, and online communities on LinkedIn and so forth. Today, I do some light consulting under Anvil Unlimited. That's the goggles on the far right, digital marketing and employee engagement. I'm also currently president of scmpdx.org, bottom left. That is a trade organization for search engine marketers. We have our big event called, was formerly SearchFest, now called Engage, October 17th and 18th. You can go to scmpdx.org for more information. Buy tickets now, day of event. They'll be $900 a person versus the 525 or so they are today. So go there and get your tickets. 2 tracks, 2 days, 30 speakers from around the country. It's going to be amazing. If you care about digital marketing, it's your one stop. I regularly write for the Business Journal. I occasionally write for Inc. Magazine and Smart Brief. And I'm also an adjunct or a volunteer presenter for SCORE and MESO, doing educational workshops for entrepreneurs. And I hope you'll join me at one or both of those as well. So today we're going to talk about employment trends and statistics, how you need and why you should curate the search engine result pages on mostly Google, but could also be Bing and Yahoo and other engines, so that you can entice and enhance your recruiting efforts by managing your reputation, and then identifying internally advocates, employees within your company to help with recruiting efforts. And then lastly, managing online reviews. And this is less about Yelp, more about Glassdoor, comparably, and other websites where your employees will review you, past and present employees, and affect your future recruiting efforts based on the quantity and quality of those reviews. So let's get started with employment trends. The first trend that we're seeing is the Great Resignation hangover from COVID. So when COVID hit, many industries were decimated, travel and tourism, et cetera. People couldn't meet, you couldn't do events. Event management companies and venues suffered. Those that were lucky enough to keep a job started rethinking maybe a near-death experience, loss of a loved one, taking care of a loved one at home. People started to rethink. Once remote work became viable, if not necessary, people started reevaluating their careers, their roles at those companies, and the Great Resignation started. Actually, it started pre-COVID, but it's continued past COVID. Then you've got the long-term change in work styles, which is fully remote work or hybrid work, which is 2 to 3 days in the office and a couple of days remote. That's where we were at Anvil before I sold. We were 2 to 3 days in the office, and that seemed to work pretty well. And I think that's the new normal based on research and my personal experience. Then there's quiet quitting. So the idea that started kind of post-COVID is I'm going to do the minimum viable amount to keep my job while I either look for a new job or start a side hustle in the gig economy, or just simply half-ass because I stopped caring. And that's a deeply deadly concern for employers looking to maintain profitability and stay in business, is enough people quiet quitting and not having the ability to know who they are. It just erodes margins until there are layoffs, until the deep cycle starts and you end up slowly out of business. The newer trend where companies are forcing people to go into work a certain number of days, typically larger corporations in bigger cities, but coffee badging is where you have a badge, you go in to entry typically triggers to prove that you were there, you might have a cup of coffee, and then you leave and you go back home and work or go to a coffee shop or somewhere else. There's a newfound autonomy and independence that people like being able to control their schedule and where they do work. And progressive employers understand that and will create workarounds to allow the perception or reality of freedom and flexibility and autonomy for their employees, as long as the work's getting done. In some cases, people are more effective remote. I've found it does have an impact on culture and cohesiveness, but there are people that are more productive at home, while others are just as productive. So coffee badging is a trend, just showing up. So it's less about how much work is getting done. You're not necessarily quiet quitting. You're just not being in the office because you don't want to be there 5 days a week or however many days a week are required. The fifth trend is focusing on purpose, sustainability, and DEI. So we know there's already been a pendulum swing for the last 3 years. This DEI focus is starting to get pushed back on, and brands are backing away from their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, at least public marketing of it. Sustainability has been a hot topic for over a decade. Younger generations, Gen Z, Gen Y, will work more readily for and stay at companies with a sustainability focus. Or simply their purpose resonates with the younger generations, which is far more important than for Gen X and boomers, is what is the core purpose of the business? Well, as a Gen Xer, I appreciate it. It doesn't necessarily mean I will apply or stay at a business without an aligned purpose, but aligned purpose generally makes a company much stickier, and you don't necessarily pay as much because people are happy to be there. The sixth trend is the AI. For artificial intelligence is automating a lot of tasks that used to be very time consuming completed by humans. And smarter companies are integrating AI at every level of the business, which makes it far more productive. And current employees, which should increase productivity and profitability. Others are using it to cut employees, which is not typically a strong message for new recruits. And it creates fear and uncertainty with existing employees, leading to quiet quitting, coffee badging, and other behaviors that may not be great for the bottom line. And lastly, skills-based hiring, upskilling, and reskilling talent. So what's happening here is that people are hiring more in the blue-collar world. Do you have the skills to hit the ground running in your new job? I am more about hiring for strengths and talents. But this is a new trend to if we're going to level down people or start at a lower level to keep our costs manageable, then we need to make sure they have those skills or they can be taught quickly. So upskilling them to a certain level or reskilling talent as AI has an impact or other global changes in manufacturing or supply chain or whatnot, people are having to change their job skills. So, coal workers, a dying industry, including the workers that are getting black lung, they're being reskilled in white collar jobs, technical jobs in the gig economy or otherwise. So upskilling and reskilling out of dying industries and low paying roles into higher paying roles these are the major employment trends that employers need to be aware of, because employees are seeing it and potential employees are seeing and reacting to these trends. The next topic is a few statistics to frame up where recruiting is today and what employees are seeing and thinking about. For starters, disengagement. Disengaged workers are very expensive. They have more than a third higher absenteeism, and nearly half have an increase in accidents. 64% more errors and defects from disengaged workers. Makes total sense. When you half-ass, you might lose half your ass in an accident. Replacing a single employee costs approximately 20% of employees' salary. I've seen studies that's the lowest. I've seen as high as 10x salary if you're replacing a very senior or executive or a very unique specialist role. But I would say the average is more like 25 or 30% of an employee's salary to find a new person. Having survived extremely high turnover, almost a decade ago, it nearly sank my business to get the right people in, to get the wrong people out, weren't a good fit. And I would never want to do it again. I just had no choice. And then businesses with highly engaged employees enjoy 100% more job applications, which is huge. Basically, it makes your recruiting job way easier when your employees are engaged. They're talking to friends about how great their company is, how much they love their job. That begets more applications, and that's the 100%. There's a ripple effect all the way around, a butterfly effect, with engaged employees being advocates and helping with recruitment. as well as productivity and profitability. So that's kind of the what's going on and how much it costs you, the ROI of having engaged employees. Let's talk about the importance of proactively curating your search engine result pages. When people do a branded search for yourcompany.com or your company reviews or your company employment opportunities, you have to make sure that you have looked at the results and that you are addressing what's going on in the search results. So you might see an example, Glassdoor reviews, comparably. You might even see potential employees will look at the customer reviews, see, is this a good company? So they'll look at Yelp, they'll look at Google reviews, they'll look, and customers similarly will look at high-ranking employee reviews to see, is this a good company? Do I want to support it? Especially young generations that are what Republicans would call woke, as a derogatory term. They actually care about, I only want to give my money to a company that cares about their employees. This is a real thing. So they'll look at PayScale and Glassdoor and others. And they'll look at Reddit and Quora. You know, Google is favoring these discussion answers as another way to augment other search results on topics like employment and big brands. These are all Boeing results on the right. And so what you're seeing is, you know, if you've got 3.4 stars or less on average, it's probably hurting your brand. 3.5 or 6 to 3.8 is neutral, and then 3.9 or 4 up to 5 stars, when people are just scanning and looking at stars, are helping. When I had a low 3-star reviews, people were not. We had a lower application rate and high cancellation rate of people applying and then ghosting us on the interview because they'd finally get around last minute to reading these nonsensical reviews on our brand on Glassdoor. And there's nothing as an employer you can really do about them, even if you dispute that these are not real reviews or they're real people saying total garbage. That, Glassdoor and Yelp make money off of encouraging you as an employer to advertise, and then they change the algorithm and suddenly you have higher star reviews. It's criminal. It's blackmail. That's just my experience and my knowledge speaking. So how do you curate your search results? It's about optimizing your website, particularly your careers page, having a more robust careers page, which we'll talk about. It's about local search and claiming and optimizing all your local listings, particularly Google, Bing, and Yahoo. But there are tools like Whitespark, Bright Local, and Moz Local that help you name, address, phone number, reviews, photos, hours. All of that can be managed through one feed. But it's important so that people see you, prospects, they can find you, your address, and you're on a map, and they can look at reviews and they can add a review. This is an important component. Local search is the last mile, usually for walk-in customers, but definitely for candidates looking to show up for an in-person interview. You can buy your brand to protect your brand. There are a lot of reasons. It's affordable, it's highly targeted, it's good for brand protection and goodwill, and for legal reasons to keep your competitors away. A lot of reasons to buy your brand. You can have a whole separate campaign around recruitment. That's geo-targeted or geo-fenced around a certain area if it's all within driving distance. But now anymore, with so many remote and hybrid workers, you can cast a much wider net, which means people are looking from out of market at your company a lot more. So search results are as important as ever in a remote economy. Social media, they're looking at your feed. Are you current? Are you consistent? Is it authentic? Is it interesting? They'll look at your competitors and make a decision if they're interviewing at 2 different places. PR, public relations, what you say and what others say about you. The art of third-party validation is talking with the media and getting them to cover you favorably. It's a very difficult thing to do. It's an art and a science. That's where I started in my career, so I have some skills in that, which helps my clients with what we call online reputation management, or ORM, and that's what it is: curating search results, pushing up positive content and mitigating or pushing down negative content. And all of this can be done purely for employment, not just for brand and marketing reasons. Lastly, influencer marketing. You can hire and pay influencers within your industry or complementary industries to put content out there that's interesting. Ideally, it's authentic and honest and transparent. But this can help curate the search results. It can help curate your reputation, and it can drive applications. So let's talk a little bit about fostering advocates. So if you want to help your recruiting efforts, you really need to identify your best employees, your happiest employees that can go out and share and spread the word and be evangelists for your brand out to other potential employees. So that includes maybe a video interview with them that's on your careers page, that shows up on social, that they're regularly posting, or you're asking them to post if they're not monitoring, which is time consuming. Responding to certain posts as an employee, XYZ PDQ. And if they're already a happy employee, they're happy to take your guidance, or just strictly go, I won't say rogue, but given the autonomy to respond to, as they see fit, certain questions about employment at your company. So lead from the front, though. That means that senior managers should be out there doing that as well, to show that it's okay and to show how it's done properly. And most companies, the CEO isn't out there talking about employment and what it's like to work at this company and why, or that next level down the XO suite. What are they doing about it? It shouldn't just be HR or marketing posting about how great the company is. And it should be mostly sharing employee stories and how, your company has benefited these employees and how they've grown and how they've made an impact in the community. The best employees out there will care most about how they fit, meaning does your purpose and your core values align with theirs? And what kind of autonomy can they get and independence to do their job? And then what kind of impact can they make? That's what's going to, being able to communicate how you address those issues is what's going to get you the best employees. So lead from the front, and then identify through regular interactions, weekly staff meetings, monthly bigger meetings, quarterly retreats, annual retreats, whatever it is. Identify those happy employees. It should be a nonstop effort. And when you've identified them, then talk and approach them about being an advocate. So that means, what do you expect of them? It's just, we just want to record a video from you, and then maybe you share it on social. Maybe that's all you'll ever ask, or that's the first main step, and see how it goes from there before you ask them to do anything else. But I would also warn you that you need to identify the unhappy employees or those that seem disengaged, and immediately host a stay interview. A stay interview is, what can we do better? How can we keep you here and keep you engaged? And what tools and support do you need to be more productive and successful here at the company? A stay interview flips the script. It's not about what we expect of you. It's what do you expect of us? And it instantly creates a relationship and credibility that can lead to engagement and increased productivity and advocates. So I mentioned, stay interviews. You can also do listening tours. That means you do a more organized by department or a company-wide. We're doing a town hall. Come talk to us. And my previous employer did that. It's like, share all your grievances and let's talk through it. But I will prepare you. I will warn you, you need to be authentic and honest and transparent, and just listen and reflect back and take good notes and then act on what you heard, or else it will be seen as a total waste of time, insincere, rhetoric and gaslighting. Share stories across the company to celebrate those wins. One way to find advocates is to show the leading advocates what that looks like, how they live your core values, how they're living your vision, how they're getting you there, how they're making an impact. Others see that and say, oh, I did that. And they talk to their boss, hey, do you want to see more of this? And the boss says, I didn't even realize you did that. Let's shout that out. And so you work your way up into this tornado of energy, positive energy that lifts the organization. Because happy employees attract and retain new employees, which strengthen the culture, which then creates happier employees. That's the cycle on the right. I would caution you about cash incentives for reviews or even referrals. You can do that. I recommend understanding what makes your employees tick individually and give them something of meaning that's memorable, more likely experience than a gift certificate or cash. It is a dinner at their favorite place. It is, an LP of their favorite artist because they have a turntable. It is, taking the time to get to know your employees individually and then reflect back you've heard and understood them by giving them things that mean something to them that they will never forget. So let's talk about managing online reviews. So sorry, I'm using a deck that had a placeholder for a poll. Are you managing your reviews? Yes or no? We won't ask it because I didn't configure it. But are you managing online reviews? So the first step to managing particularly employee reviews, but this all applies to customer reviews as well, is create rules of engagement. How are you as an organization going to monitor reviews and then respond? What are the rules for when do you respond? How do you respond? What information do you provide? Who is responding? You need those rules. You can GPT it or check out pdxMindShare's blog for more insights. from our perspective. Provide regular team training. So things change, different platforms, different rules, different nuances. Reddit and Quora changing some of the game on how people search for information, TikTok and Instagram. So they might start looking for insights into employment through these social channels and forums. So regularly train and revisit what the team is doing in terms of monitoring and responding to reviews. Utilize tools to monitor those reviews, or at least manually. Google Alerts isn't going to do it. You're going to mention .com may not be enough. You may need more advanced employer HR tools to monitor reviews for employees in particular. And by golly, respond proactively. That means frequently and regularly, obviously, honestly, and transparently. So the tools make sure you don't miss anything or mitigate the chance you'll miss some obtuse comment or review. But you still have to, no matter what, have a responsive plan in place. The big ones, Glassdoor, Indeed, and Comparably, the top ranking typically for company search plus reviews at the end of it. So Anvil Unlimited Reviews is an example. So when you're responding to reviews, a few tips. Respond to all the reviews. Good reviews, bad reviews, 5-star to 1-star. And the good reviews, you reemphasize what they say that resonates with your core values and your mission, vision, and purpose. And on the bad is like, how can we acknowledge that you're unhappy. We're sorry to hear that you didn't have a good employee experience. Then you talk about how you've done, if there are any specific complaints that have been acknowledged by others. Then you say, here's what we've been doing to work on that and fix it for current and future employees. And then what I used to do with customers, the third stage with my hotel clients, is ask, what can we do to make this better? You could do that you're not going to do that with a past employee. There's nothing you can do, probably. With a current employee, you would take it offline and ask them one-on-one. What can we do that might encourage you to revise your review to a 5-star? What do we need to do? And that goes full circle back to the stay interview. What can we do better? So before you respond, you want to make sure you've already talked with HR and legal departments to make sure what you're posting is compliant with all the rules. But then the responses start to sound trite and insincere and inhuman. So try your best to fight for honesty and timeliness versus slow and soulless responses that are compliant. Be of course authentic, and empathetic if you can be. Like, I've been in your place, or we understand your concerns or your struggles, but when you start getting defensive, then you've lost them, because it sounds like you're not admitting to your blind spots. And I get it. I've been there. I've had my blind spots, still do. But I tend to want to get defensive when I read criticism about myself or my company. It's natural. But try to stay away from sit on it. Have somebody else that's not as close to it respond with making sure your key points are addressed. And frankly, ever learn to lean in twice as far as people expect. If people complain about an aspect, own it. Say, we are not perfect. This is not up to our standards. Here's what we're doing, as I said earlier, to fix it. But the more you own it, the more believable you are and the more trust you build. And that's the start of any good relationship. Ask permission to use positive reviews in your marketing, of course. Once you get those, to put them on your careers page and in your marketing materials for recruitment, really key opportunity. And then lastly, in your marketing, you're gonna cite any awards, like Anvil finally won after a decade of trying best places to work in Oregon. We won a greenest companies to work for, the healthiest employer. We were getting those HR recognition, but at the end of the day, our Glassdoor reviews didn't match. The old Glassdoor reviews didn't match the new company and new employees we had that loved being there and were pleased with who we were and where we were going. So it takes time to correct and turn a ship like an aircraft carrier. It took me years to turn the ship at Anvil as I rebuilt from 2013 to 2018 or 19. So there's that. So in short, that kind of wraps up our webinar today. These are all clickable resources that are available on pdxMindShare.com, AnvilMediaInc.com, but more importantly, at KentJLewis.com, which has articles and links to other webinars that I've done on topics like employee engagement. So I want to thank you for your time. And check out, I have 2 bonus things I want to tell you about. I forgot to mention. Number 1, maximizing employee experience. So if you want to create the best possible employee experience that creates sticky, highly productive, highly engaged employees that help the bottom line, be accountable, treat your colleagues as friends, meaning kindness and compassion, not, yo, we're friends, I'll sweep this under the rug. That's not necessarily the point. And fostering social connections. So figuring out ways to meet virtually and in person when possible. When you're communicating, to come from a place of empathy, respect, and gratitude. It's hard for some people to do. I'm a low empath, so it took me some work. Now it's easy because I've seen the light as an employee. After 22 years, I finally figured out what it was like to be an employee. And I've gone out of my way to provide the needed support to build trust with my teams. What can I do to help? I check in between once a week and once a month. What can I do to help you? How are you doing, and what can I do? And that made a huge difference, particularly in the last couple of years. And encouraging people to talk to leadership regularly, creating those channels of communication, taking advantage of some operational best practices, and showing that you're listening by acting on your insights. And then last bonus is the checklist. These are things you're going to want to do if you want the most engaged, most productive employees that lead to the greatest profitability, which can be, in my case, I doubled my profitability in less than 3 years by following just a few of these. These I've learned since becoming an employee, but I was really good at curating our brand presence on Google because that's what I've been doing for over 25 years. I monitor Glassdoor and Indeed ratings, but I struggled to get employees in Portland. They don't like to toot their horn if they're happy, and they're all too happy to toot their horn when they're pissed. Recruitment video, we added one to our careers page. We developed a welcome package on the first day with a little bit of swag and some thoughtful things that they would like based on an employee survey they fill out before they start on things they like, things they love. I struggled for 20 plus years to have a 90-day onboarding roadmap. I highly recommend it. You have one for every employee, for every department. A career roadmap, this is what differentiated us because my next employer did not have one, which is, what is your roadmap as an employee at our company until you retire? And, 1 year, 5 year, 10-year roadmap. And that is what can keep somebody there for the long game when they see their long-term goals mesh and align with yours. Having a buddy system, my previous employer did this. I thought it was great, which is they pair you with somebody that's been there a long time or somebody in the same department or intentionally a different department. So you get to know people across departments. Great with larger organizations. We added quarterly reviews at Anvil right before I sold because annual reviews don't make sense to try and course correct once a year. You don't do that with your significant other. Only talk once a year about your relationship. And if you do, you're probably not as successful as the ones that talk as needed regularly. So quarterly reviews about direct feedback, both directions. And once a year, we did a 360 review, including coworkers and clients, giving that critical feedback because there are bigger issues that you may only need to bring up once a year, but the course correcting is quarterly. Check-ins with leadership. I did monthly, minimally 15 minutes meetings with every employee, and that helped, but it wasn't a pure solve based on the structure and the trust I had not built enough. So I was still getting people leaving right after having a monthly meeting where the only objective is, how are you doing and how can I help? And so stay interviews, having those alternate to the once a year annual 360 feedback. 6 months apart from that, I do a stay interview. Although that question should happen in every quarterly is, how are you doing? How can we help you? Because this is how you can help us. It should really be baked into your annual reviews, opposite your annual review, or in every quarterly review. Ask those questions and make sure you're asking from a place of caring because you want to fix things. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn using this QR code. You can email me with questions about employee engagement, employee experience. And I hope to see you at a future workshop. Thank you so much. Be sure and check back on our YouTube channel, our LinkedIn group, and our website, pdxMindShare.com. And I look forward to staying in touch. Thank you so much.